Hello, everybody. This is Marcel Irnie with Irnieracing News. I'm on the phone with Joshua, and we are going to discuss the GiveSendGo leak. The people that gave to the Christian fundraiser, GiveSendGo, all the names and their email addresses have been leaked. Joshua, will you please put your input on this now?
Sure, yeah. Nice to speak to you again, Marcel. I always love these conversations, but for anyone that's listening that doesn't know me, I'm Joshua Illuminator. I've been helping Marcel with his essentially unlawful tickets that he was dealing with and the harassment from the police. And as a result, we've kind of just started working together and had many fascinating conversations, and we decided to record them.
Absolutely.
And so what's been really interesting is I pretty much woke up today and I saw the GiveSendGo donor list being leaked out, and I had such a chuckle because in a way, what we're witnessing is actually essentially it's a fight between two sides, but from the dialogue that I'm seeing going on, they're both for the same party. So to be clear, we kind of discussed this last time, and I know some people didn't really like our perspective, and they didn't like just this opinion dialogue because they are like, where's the research? Well, we are constantly doing so much research, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to provide it for people, and this is why I say do your own research. You are responsible for your own education. You're a big man or woman. Well, you're not a big man or woman.
Plus,
you're just a man or a woman.
The news is updating every minute on the hour, and I'm just a one-man crew now with my associate Joshua, and so we might put out news right now, and it changes 10 minutes from now. So, anyways, please continue on the leaked donors list.
So one of the first things, and I really wish I saved it, but it was too early in the day for me to have my full mindset or awareness on, is some of the donors that were actually leaked were known criminals, which I found fascinating. I'm not too sure about the validity of that. If anyone finds information on that, please send it to us. I would love to see it. But it is really interesting to see a leak. And then just a moment earlier, I found out that an Antifa organization, I can't remember their names, but I have to go look at the saved documentation of it. An Antifa organization claims to have hacked their database and provided this information with the public.
So essentially the leak is done on purpose to hurt the Freedom Convoy, from that understanding.
Yeah, and what seems to be the backlash is people are anticipating now whether or not this is actually going to happen. For some cases, definitely it's going to occur. But what people are anticipating is the loss of jobs and public ridicule or other things like that. Now, what I would actually, I think is important is the security protocol for an organization like GiveSendGo, and then all the weirdness. So, of course, there's an information war, if you will, going on. Because why would they be so desperate to leak this information out, whoever is doing this? Now, it's entirely likely that if it's an Antifa organization, they're also partnering with the government, or whoever those agents are acting as the government. So it's really fascinating to see how desperate these measures are becoming.
An intelligence warfare, propaganda warfare, and it's so obvious now. It's the funny thing is it's just waking the world up even more. I think the globalist elites agenda is becoming so public, but they don't even care anymore because they're fighting for inches now. I mean, just look at like the news feeds on YouTube. All the live feeds from the Ambassador Bridge were cut. I had a video that I uploaded about the Ambassador Bridge, and this morning I go to look and it's gone. I didn't even have a chance. I didn't even have a chance to release it. It was, in their approval process, which can take 1 to 7 days on YouTube sometimes. And this morning it's gone. And I'm like, so because I tagged it Ambassador Bridge, things are just disappearing, and the live feeds are being cut. And it all started with they cut the traffic cams for the truck convoy going across. Like obvious, control measures. to now what's going on in the parliament where shit's hitting the fan in the parliament, right? They're either going to get rid of all these mandates or he's going to enact a war measure act that I'm hearing. What do you think about this?
Well, I just saw the vote. So the vote was fairly balanced, but to me it wasn't really surprising. It just reveals what I already feel intuitively, what's occurring in the circumstance. So pretty much, if you're in Parliament Hill, you have essentially stated, unless you demonstrate otherwise, you're not for the people. I know that's a very generalized statement. However, I find it very difficult, considering the circumstances, that anyone remaining in Parliament would, or even any of the political systems at this point. Now, to be fair, there are going to be little guys out there that are actually for the people. But if you are acting as a big player, they're likely just trying to twist the information and win votes, if you will, win people's support. And this is one of the reasons why I think we need to stop looking for leaders and we need to start standing in our own power. Because the fact that they voted against the ending of mandates, so they are going to continue, it just is a demonstration that they have a clear agenda that is associated to these mandates, and it has something to do with control and an ID. I'm going to leave it at that, but people who know what I'm talking about will already know. If you don't know, go looking up what a credit system is. To expand on that a little bit further, with that vote, it's just a ruse. I mean, it's basically to
it's in their system. It's again their controlled system, just like we talked about with lawyers and the bar system. It's like by entering these systems, you can never win. You're in their backyard. It's like, when you have somebody discussing on your Facebook, well, then you can censor the comments and block people out and control the situation, right? When you're on their page, they can censor and block you out and control. Let's talk also about, like, I just put a video out on my second YouTube channel, the Irnieracing News, essentially the test channel. So for people that don't know, I create another channel to test all the videos to make sure I don't lose everything by posting them on the main channel. And I'm trying to get everybody over to this channel. And now I just started a Rumble channel. It's Irnieracing, which will be for the full videos and uncensored versions. So this one guy was talking, and essentially, they want to invent ahead of the movement in order to make people from the convoy to listen to the new ideas. So we have these leaders of the convoy who aren't actually the people or the truckers. We talked about how Tom McKenzie, or whatever his last name was speaking, but he was also Maraza. He was also losing. He wasn't a very good speaker. We need an actual leader for the convoy, but also it should almost be somebody of the people, like of the truckers. So what do you think?
Well, that touches on a great point. I mean, this is my definition of true leadership. It's not somebody who chooses to be a leader themselves, but that is appointed by the people. It's someone that has earned the respect of individuals, whereby he or she acts in such a benefit to others that they naturally go, you know what? You have demonstrated such beautiful qualities of a man or a woman that we deem you suitable to be a leader. But in doing that, the people also retain their power and not actually give it away. So at the same time as that individual, man or woman, is acting as a leader, the people also retain their power, and they do not give them all of the choice, all of the power, and all the opportunities to make the decision. The decision, even if there is a leader, should always remain with the people, and that's my perspective of leadership moving forward in anything that I do.
And on that note, I totally understand what you're getting. And so when somebody risks their profession, puts themselves up in the limelight by doing speeches is one great example. And if that resonates with the people, their speech, and the empathy of that person. One example is I put up a video from this lawyer in the USA, Trisha Lindsay, and that video that has now 980,000 views. And I got so many comments about, like, I would follow this woman into battle. Did you see the one? We have a right to resist, and we have an obligation and duty to do so. So it's on the channel, a 10-minute video. But that's a good example. It's like none of these organized leaders have actually spoken and got the people's attention in that group. And so I do feel the Freedom Convoy, the People's Convoy, the Canadian Convoy, we need to we need to find a public speaker that we all resonate with on that.
And actually, speaking on what you're touching on with the convoy, what's really fascinating, if we look at it from both sides, I mean, we touched on this in our last video around that's funny, a lot of people didn't really agree with. I went through all the comments and I love reading them. It's really fascinating. But a lot of people had issues around how we kind of pointed fingers, if you will, at the leaders of the convoy. But what's interesting is both sides have an equal interest. They both have financial interests. So if we look at Ambassador Bridge, and this is a video that you already know of, Marcel, but for people who are watching today, I'm going to be sharing a video around how we can use these motivations, like the financial interests, to our benefit, because things that are occurring like Ambassador Bridge or Coutts, Alberta, why are they cutting off the news feeds or the video feeds for areas that are actually predominantly economic pipelines? And that is a question that I answer in my video. And I mean,
why are these riot police working so hard to take back the Ambassador Bridge and the Coutts? And so the money that travels from border to border funds the governments, and so we need to understand these are in terms of our tactics, what helps us have a win, and essentially what hurts the government to then collapse, and so we can build it back up from the bottom. Not build back better, but totally wipe it out and start over, because as we've seen with the judges are completely unethical, and the court system at the supreme level is corrupt in that sense. And because if the judges are bought and are not following the people's wishes, then the whole system needs a reset. And I get the question is like, Marcel, well, how do you redo it? I don't know that answer, but maybe you have one.
What's beautiful is we have the answer in our history. What's interesting is I've heard this for years now, is that the moment that we're in right now is actually known as an archaic revival, or at least that's a Terence McKenna term for anyone that's familiar with him. But I agree and disagree with some of what he stated. So we are going back to an old way of doing things, and having elders is one element, and having decentralized leadership, if you will, is a modern term. I don't really want to coin or use that term, but I know a lot of people are familiar with that terminology. And so I want to make it as comprehensible for everyone. And so this idea of removing centralized power in the context that we've been so familiar with, like an election system, and I mean, there will still be an election system. We need to be able to all voice our perspectives. And the system that exists today doesn't allow it, because what many people don't realize is there's a public system, which is just a show, and then there's a private system, which is actually where the real decisions are made.
Yeah, like Parliament. When you watch Parliament, no, not just recently, but like in all of the past, it's a charade. It's a show.
Yeah.
Nobody actually answers any questions. Nobody's under like oath to like actually make an answer. One guy says, answer this question about like all the stillborn deaths, and then he's like, oh, everything is safe. It's all safe. He doesn't actually like, well, what about the 98 in the last 2 months? It's safe.
Totally.
There's no accountability in the court, not the courts, but there's no accountability in Parliament to actually answer any questions. So it's just a charade for TV. It's like freaking soap operas my grandma was watching.
Yeah, and we've even seen it with the Ghislaine Maxwell lawsuit. The individuals that were actually a part of that and were released, or actually a part of the evidence and the witness testimonies, were never actually publicly announced, even though it's done in the Supreme Court of law, if you will. And what's fascinating is if it's actually a genuine court of the people, it has to be on record, and therefore all of that information that has been disclosed is public knowledge, and they have failed to do so. And so that's the beautiful thing is, even if we go to our courts, there is already a court system that exists that is of, and there's individuals like Christopher James who are actively bringing those courts back. And part of it is finding people who are willing to stand as judges or impartial parties. They're not necessarily the ones that make the decision, it's the people who make the decision. But then also having police and deputies, sheriffs, things like that nature, who uphold the what's been determined as the reasonable repairs that need to be made.
Well, on a final note, I wanted to just remind everybody how I put out the video about the kids convoy. And after I recorded this, I told Joshua about it, and I said, February 17th, no more breathing barriers. February 17th, no more breathing barriers. And just to kind of like update people on, because people are like, is that 11 a.m. Pacific time? It's like, forget about the time. On Thursday, have some discussions with your kids' friends. Get the parents together. It's like, when you think it's appropriate, have the kids walk out of school and they can protest, or they can, not protest, what's now the better word?
I kind of like the word rally myself,
yes,
but I don't know if it's appropriate. I'm still looking for a word as well.
Okay, so have the kids go outside and rally, have their signs and posters, and just, they're not going to be inside wearing breathing barriers. Everybody take your breathing barrier off and get in your hallway and just leave the classrooms and make a statement, and it doesn't have to be like, don't leave school forever, but I'm just saying, get out there on Thursday and show the world that we do not, why are the kids wearing breathing barriers, but you have how many million people watching the Super Bowl, but the kids in kindergarten to grade 12, and back to like Jonathan who called me from New York, I mean, one of his 3 kids is blind and, obviously is mentally disabled and cannot wear a breathing barrier. He doesn't even understand it. And then he's kicked out of school or attacked by the principals and the people for not wearing a breathing barrier when the kid doesn't even understand it at all. And so this is for the safety of everybody. We can't talk about reasons why on YouTube about breathing barriers, but I can tell you it all just goes up under your glasses. So there's no absolute efficiency whatsoever if you study filtration, and because that is my profession, is filtration. And so I know a lot about ASTM tests, American Society for Tests and Materials. So start doing some research. Just like metal and steel buildings is ASTM certified to not melt from jet fuel. So any final thoughts, Joshua, on the kids walkout? We call it the kids convoy.
Well, I celebrate doing more actions like this where we stand united. And the only thing that I would add is, as we continue to do this, we will need to stand stronger together. And what I mean is, we must protect each other as if we are the same. So if you see somebody being taken advantage of or harmed in some way, stand for them. Yeah, they'll be held accountable one moment or another. It is coming.
Perfect. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's update 2:22 p.m. February 14th, 2022. This is Marcel and Joshua. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.